In 2020, some internal evidence magically appeared in Hobby Lobby's archives, confirming that in December 2011, when the pictures of the chunks were taken, Scott Carroll was in London and later in Oxford. As Hyland stated later in his article, internal documents show that Carroll was in the United Kingdom in December 2011 and in Oxford at the beginning of January 2012. He met with both Abink and Exioglu and received permission from Exioglu in January to dismantle some pieces of cartonnage for study purposes. He also worked to arrange for the Green Collection to acquire the papyri offered in the January 7th invoice. Now, do you believe that these internal documents were really lost from 2014 to 2020? I certainly don't. In fact, some were leaked and seen years before by journalists and at least one colleague. But still, Steve Green and his employees have tried to convince us of new discoveries in their archives and email boxes, which I find sometimes infuriating and sometimes remarkable. Do they really believe we are as hopeless as most of the experts they paid for years? For most of us, when we know we have made a mistake, or as Steve Green would say, committed a sin, we try to conceal the gravity of what we've done by telling stories to first convince ourselves, before anyone else, that we were not so bad after all, that we had good reasons to behave in that way. At the level of crime, very few human beings have the moral strength to take full responsibility for their actions, and the Greens and their employees seem not to be in this lot. They haven't had the guts to admit they have concealed for years what they have always known about their dealings with, among others, Exioglu, Abink, and Carroll. Holmes and others came out with all the new evidence only after Nongbri, Sampson, Higgins, Sabar, and others, including myself, had publicly exposed highly inconvenient truths. This is not to mention the police investigations, which put enormous pressure on Hobby Lobby and the Museum of the Bible. So the Greens and their collaborators desperately tried to soothe their own pain and shame, weaving a fantasy narrative in which they were agents for good. But facts and timing tell us a very different story.